Oftentimes, whenever you're utilizing a substance consistently, you're running from something. In my experience, I've been to a lot of Narcotics Anonymous meetings. I've been to a lot of Alcohol Anonymous meetings. I have visited quite a few courtrooms with people utilizing these substances and making mistakes. I've been to a lot of baby showers, and I've also been to a lot of funerals. What I can say about the people who were once living a lifestyle of an addict and now made it to the other side of being sober, being clean for an extended period of time. When you're using drugs, you don't grow. Whatever age you were when you start using drugs, chances are it's going to be the same age you are when you stop using drugs.
Because yesterday I was talking about like being tired, right? And I was considering like, I don't know, maybe I should drink more coffee. I feel like literally everybody who I work with, like there's like an internship or like a hospitality industry, everybody drinks coffee.
Yes.
Also, when it comes to like the creative industry, there's more of substance than just coffee to keep people awake.
That's very true.
And then when it comes to being creative, there's even more substances that people use.
That is also very true.
To go to the top, a lot of people use things that we don't even know about.
We don't know that they use it.
Right.
Yes.
Today I want to talk maybe a bit more about substance use and peak performance. Whether they go hand in hand, whether there's any validity to them. So if you want to talk about it, if you like this too off brand or anything.
No.
Alright, let's go. Let's go from light to heavy. Let's talk about coffee.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think of coffee use in order to boost your performance?
I think ideally, we want our passion to be driving us toward whatever we believe our purpose to be. We want that to be our caffeine, as opposed to an external substance that we embark onto as a temporary fix, but it becomes a bit of an addiction. And not to say that coffee is somehow a gateway drug or anything like that, but essentially you want to depend on you to propel yourself toward whatever your goal may be. In this case, staying up longer so that you can actually perform. But whatever it is that you start out taking, eventually you're going to have to take more of it in order to get the same result. And then there's only but so much more of it you can take before you have to pivot to something else in order to get that result. So perhaps seeking external stimuli in the form of anything other than food is not something that I would recommend. And you can also drink tea and get caffeine. Doesn't necessarily have to be coffee.
Red Bull.
Red Bull is really just sugar. And so sugar is not the best for our bodies, as most people know. It also trains or keeps your body in position to burn sugar instead of burning fat. And so you have these peaks of energy, and then it drops. And you have to keep giving your body sugar in order for your energy levels to keep spiking. Whereas that's also probably not the reality that you want to experience. As opposed to having these constant highs and lows, perhaps you're interested in having more of a consistent energy level and thus a consistent energy source. Training your body to burn fat instead of allowing your body to remain accustomed to only burning sugar could get you the result that you want to have. Now, of course, that comes with some other implications, meaning perhaps your body won't look the way that you want it to look because you've now trained your body to burn a different source of energy or utilize a different source of energy. So the question then becomes, how much do you want that energy? Are you willing to sacrifice this idea that you have of how you should look in order to have this energy? Or are you more interested in looking a certain way than having energy? Or are you trying to find a balance between the two? What does that balance necessarily look like? Because chances are you're giving up something on both sides in order to actually find that balance. And so you're not actually performing at your peak in any one of those areas, but perhaps you are performing at your peak overall. So essentially it comes down to what does it mean to you? And what are you willing to sacrifice in order to acquire it? But any external substance that a person is relying on for energy, literal energy, literally have physical energy, it's probably not something that we want to do outside of food and water and tea.
How do you adjust your diet in order to be more energetic?
Adjusting your diet to be more energetic depends on the person, because everybody's body doesn't respond to food the same way. For example, someone who has a blood type B- has a different diet than someone who's blood type A+. There's something called the plant paradox, meaning just because it's green doesn't mean it's good for you. And then there's a bunch of other factors. How much do you train? Do you train? What is your sleep like? What are your stress levels like? And then let's say you're not 100% healthy, but you don't know that. Let's say you have a parasite, but you don't know that. So there's a plethora of different aspects of your health that are important to look at. What is your microbial balance in your stomach like? Do you have the proper bacteria in your stomach to break down food? Because you can have the perfect diet, but if you're not absorbing anything, what does it mean? What is the balance of minerals in your body that you have, vitamins in your body that have to combine in order to actually help you digest your food? Are you reaping the benefits from what you're eating? Or is it just passing through? All of this is a part of it. It's not just simply eating, quote unquote, right, sleeping, quote unquote, right, in order to have the energy, and exercising, of course, quote unquote, correctly. In order to have the energy, it's also what's happening internally. Because there's some people that look amazingly, but inside, they're not so healthy. It's not going so well. And there's some people where it's vice versa. They don't have the aesthetic that is deemed pleasing, at least not socially. That's not what society seems to celebrate on a mainstream level. But internally, they're great. They're actually very healthy, even though society doesn't perceive them or celebrate them as being attractive necessarily. So it's just a trade-off. What is it that you're looking for exactly? And what are you willing to give up for? For example, Tony Robbins, being big and muscular and thinking he was cool until he was on stage giving seminars, doing what he loves to do. And he couldn't even bend over to pick up a pen. He just dropped without throwing his back out. He had a bunch of muscles, but at that moment it seemed silly. The objective is not to have muscles. He was working out because he wanted energy. Muscle was just a byproduct of that. He thought the muscles were cool, but he had more muscles than he had energy. So you had a body that looks like it can do a whole lot, but in all actuality, it can't. It spends most of the energy that you put into it of pretty much sustaining itself. It doesn't actually use that energy for output. It just uses it to sustain itself because it is very taxing on the body to carry muscle, to maintain muscle. So to maintain the muscle, build the muscle, because of course you're still going to the gym, trying to get stronger, etc. And then to actually perform on top of that and rebuild itself every night when you're asleep, it's a lot. And break down all the food that you're putting into your body, because that's another thing. Oftentimes when we're trying to build a certain aesthetic, we think that it's necessary to constantly feed our bodies, which makes sense, but it may not actually be the best thing for our bodies long term until we learn how to do it, which is another sacrifice. The time spent to learn how to teach your body to burn fat instead of burning sugar, learning what to eat, when to eat it, learning what's happening inside of your body, learning how to adjust your diet to your body specifically based on what your body needs, learning when you should sleep specifically based on what your body needs. Sometimes it requires us to transform our entire lives. It assists people's goals in one aspect of life. One aspect of life is not peak performance. Oftentimes when we see documentaries, when we read biographies or watch biopics of some of the greatest artists that have ever walked the earth, they don't seem to have great lives. They have very turbulent, dysfunctional, volatile lives, although they may find success or fulfillment in this one very specific area of their lives. All in all, their experience seems to be rather underwhelming. And the music is good because of the pain from the other aspects of their lives that they express through the music. But it's seemingly a self-perpetuating cycle of living in a dysfunctional way, thus reaping a negative consequence and creating a song about it and kind of going in this loop, because a song is fulfilling. The response that you get from the people is fulfilling. The money that comes from being such a great artist is fulfilling. You're living on this high horse in a sense, but your actual life is not great. Your actual life is not fulfilling, which oftentimes is what fuels the continuous drug use. It's not the actual music, it's the life. Music is an escape, but drugs oftentimes are an escape as well. And so how you feel, or how the artist seems to feel when they're using drugs, and how they feel when they're creating music is the same. And so they feed off of each other. And oftentimes we can say, maybe that's why you get the quote unquote greatness, but it's really greatness in a bottle. It's just lightning in a bottle, because it's not like a person takes a drug and everything that they create is just amazing. There's still pockets that they have to find. And as an artist, the objective is to be able to tap into that without a substance. Otherwise, the question becomes, are you really an artist? Is that really you? And if it is you, great, let's find a way to pull that out. Let's find a way to demonstrate that without a substance. If it's not you, let's acknowledge that it's not you. Chances are it is you, but you don't feel comfortable or cool enough to express that version of you without being convinced by the drug or by the alcohol. It goes back to knowing who you are and knowing what you want to do. Just not thinking that it sounds cool enough. The drug helps you to bypass what it sounds like and just exist in that space. That's not a fulfilling life.
So people also think that they're very productive when they're on weed. Those productive stoners.
Perhaps the question then is, what is it about weed that helps you become more productive? And how can you locate that space within yourself without the weed? Otherwise, weed becomes a crutch. And this is not saying to anyone not to smoke weed. That's their prerogative. The objective is to not need weed in order to be the truest, most complete version of self. It comes down to self-awareness. How likely are you to fold under peer pressure? If you're very likely, then chances are you don't want to find yourself at those locations. If not, then maybe you can give it a shot and not fall victim to what's happening in the environment. Oftentimes, whenever you're utilizing a substance consistently, you're running from something. In my experience, I've been to a lot of Narcotics Anonymous meetings. I've been to a lot of Alcohol Anonymous meetings. I have visited quite a few courtrooms with people utilizing these substances and making mistakes. I've been to a lot of baby showers, and I've also been to a lot of funerals. What I can say about the people who were once living a lifestyle of an addict and now made it to the other side of being sober, being clean for an extended period of time. When you're using drugs, you don't grow. Whatever age you were when you start using drugs, chances are it's going to be the same age you are when you stop using drugs. Mentally, emotionally, because chances are you ran from every situation that will bring about discomfort in your life. And that discomfort is what leads to growth. So rather than focusing on how you can grow from the experience, the focus was on how you can run from the experience, how you can feel better. And that pursuit of you feeling better distracted you from the lesson. And thus it distracted you from being better, not just feeling better. So oftentimes, whatever age you were when you became an addict is the age you are when you become clean. Or the age or the maturity level was drastically slowed down. So if you start smoking, let's say, crack cocaine at 30 and you stop at 50, mentally, chances are you're still 30. And if not, maybe 35, but not 50. In my experience, and what I've seen, and what I've read, and what I've heard, the level of maturity is much lower because addicts don't deal with life in a lot of instances. They run from it. But they're exposed to a part of life that people who are not to some aspects of life that others may not have access to or have had exposure to. They understand the dark side in a way that others may not, meaning people who were not addicts. And oftentimes that's justification to remain an addict for a period of time. And then, in my experience, it's often used as justification to get clean. to experience the other side of life, the light, not the dark side. But in order to experience the light, you have to grow.